to the Community Preservation Committee duly hearing for presentations with respect to applicants duly called and posted for Friday, October 5th at 9:30 in the morning. We have the hearing today of two applicants, and the first one is NISDA. You've been here before, but we would like you to introduce yourselves. We would ask these take about 10 minutes to just sort of flush out your presentation, and then leave the rest of the time for us for questions for you.
Terrific. Okay. I am Kathy Count-Cronin, and I'm the director and founder of the Nantucket Island School of Design and the Arts. And go ahead.
Valerie Norton, partner in Norton Preservation Trust, renovation and design for historic structures.
And an intimate participant in this. Yeah. So the Nantucket Island School of Design and the Arts, we were founded in 1978. At that time, we were affiliated with the Rhode Island School of Design, where I taught. And we began to bring programs over in the summer and then in the winter. And in 1978, we became independent and affiliated with the Massachusetts College of Art. And over the years, we've evolved. In fact, they asked me to speak at Sugar & Commons, and Valerie Larrabee is the director there. And at the very end, they wanted to know about the school, and at the very end, Valerie said, "Kathy, I was a kinder artist at NISDA, and she's the director of the Sherman Commons." And we started talking about, she said, at that time, you were one of the only places that was doing children's programs. Now, that was a long time ago. So we have college programs, partnership programs with other colleges, and sometimes with organizations on Nantucket. We've worked, in the 80s, we worked a lot in the public schools. We got grants from the Mass Cultural Council, and we funded ourselves into the public schools so that we could do programs that introduced other cultures to the kids. It was an interdisciplinary program, and that went for like 6 years running. We worked very intimately with John Miller and the teachers there. We have adult workshops, children's workshops, as I just shared, and we also have an artist residency program, which is down at the Cottages in town. When we first started, we were an itinerant school in the sense that we were in artist studios. We were in the basement of the Coffin School, the top floor of Academy Hill. Our students stayed at different people's homes. And as we evolved and the programs grew, we needed more space. So thankfully, in 1979, we leased the farm from Dr. Marsh, who was a doctor coming here from Zanesville, Ohio. And it was really a dank barn. It was very wet. There were cow stalls in half of it. And his wife took one look at it and decided she wouldn't stay. And so it was available for us to rent. And so we rented it. And then in 1982, we purchased it. And at that same time, just to kind of broaden the scope a bit of all the facilities, we had our students staying in Millie Lou Smith's house on Westchester, Clinton Edith Andrews' farm out on Nantucket Road, Chris Van Loo's home, and that was like this because we would have to work with, they could use the bathroom at a certain time, they could only come downstairs at a certain time. You were coordinating a whole group of students, like a calliope in different homes. So Bill Rich helped us at the very beginning from Design Associates to design the farm as we went in there to try and make it into a school. And he and Bobby had those little cottages, and he said, "Kathy, we don't want to run them anymore. Would you like to lease them?" So we leased those just at the time that the lightship Nantucket, I forgot to tell you that the students actually lived on the lightship Nantucket. Leroy True from the Historical Association let us have our students on that. So it's been a real challenge to create the buildings for this. And of course, the buildings are terribly important because they have the hearth of the home, which is where the classes happen and the spirit of the community that develops in the classes happen. And the farm has been amazing. And we had worked, when we first went out there, we did as much as we could to make it home, habitable. But then when we purchased it, Carl Borchert did all the planning for the engineering of it. We engineered it, we did the electrical, the plumbing, and we have consistently worked, often on a sweat equity basis, to develop it and restore it. Before we got your grant, which has been the beginning of a major change, which has been totally, I can't even describe, I can't say thank you enough to the difference it's making in what we are doing. But prior to that, we installed a 200-person septic system, like about 10 years ago. We had to replace a well. So it's just been incremental steps to actually develop the space. We are really rolling now with this grant. It is wonderful. And Valerie and Rick and the workmen that are coming, we've done the silos, which look awesome, and they really needed help structurally. They're beautiful to look at, but they're also structurally sound now. And the long shed is in every inch of the long shed right now, which is what our last grants have been for. We're working on it right now, which Valerie can tell you what they're doing. It's amazing. It's just wonderful. So we're looking forward to continuing. And what we're requesting here, Valerie will share with you, but we're doing the long shed, and now we really want to focus on the exterior of the farm itself, so that the buildings are protected. I wanted to bring you up to date on the deed restriction. We've been in process with that. And we met once with Michael May, and now Brian Pfeiffer is coming, and we actually have a meeting a week from next Tuesday, and we're going to be out there, and we're going to really go over everything as far as the deed restriction goes, and what we'll be able to do with the silos, how we'll be able to utilize them. So we're looking forward to that. And then the other thing that's happened that we put in at the very last minute is that Randy Hilton, I'm sure you're very familiar with Randy's work, and he's been doing a lot of documentation on the island of all the historic buildings, and especially those that are being impacted by the flood. And one of the things he's doing down in Florida, it's a great title, is Keeping History Above Water. And that's basically what he's
You're
really...
talking about Marty Hilton.
Yes.
You said Randy.
I did, I meant Marty. I'm sorry. I didn't even realize I said Randy, thank you. I wondered why you didn't recognize him. Okay, so what happened is they approached us last year, and they asked, because the cottages are going to be moved because the town is widening the road, they offered to do a digital scanning of the cottages, and they did that, and it's so substantial. This is what they put together, and I know that's not why we're here, but it's the work that they do, the professionalism. What's in here is totally amazing. It not only documents what it looks like on the exterior, but it documents the structure, the bones of the buildings. Plus, they do an amazing amount of research on the history. And this is just a quick little aside. What they found out down at the cottages we didn't know is there was a train station there was a slaughterhouse there, and there was a junk dealer there over time. And they did this whole history of what they call now SOMO, which is south of Main Street. It's like, Soho, SOMO. So he approached us and he said, Kathy, the farm is historic. It's really important. We would like to propose that we do the same thing for the farm, which would then give us all those documents. And also these could be actually put, I guess, at the Fair Street Museum, where there's a lot of history about the town. So that we just added that. It's 5,000. We added that. And we realized the amount of money is absolutely huge, and we're not trying to be greedy at all. What we're doing with this is it's allowing us to look at the whole picture and to take in sequence to see what it will actually cost us to accomplish this. So is that good? It's your turn.
Thank you. I'll talk fast. I know our time is limited. I really wanted to first thank you all for all the good funds that we've been receiving, and if you can, I know it's not on your way to get out there to see what's going on. It's easy in town, but what's happening out there is just amazing. The long shed, long barn is just transforming, and it's so wonderful that it's being protected now, and thank you. So our projects are listed. We do have more work on the long barn. What happened was last year you gave us funds to raise the foundation, which we did, thinking that the water was coming in from the stream into the building. And once we got that added on, the height added on, we realized that there's water coming under the building through the foundation at this point. So what we've added this year is to dig out that back foundation and waterproof it, because otherwise the work is just going to happen again. The rot will just start over. So that's something that we've asked for. We are hoping for the interior storm doors and windows. I know it's a big number. It will protect the building, but that is something that would be very helpful to, because all we have now are the barn sliding doors, and there's really no way to waterproof that at this point. The next thing is, when this is we're sort of coming in this backwards also, repairing the posts on the front of the building. When we started the project, the interior of the building was set up as storage and classroom space, and there was a lot of things in the way. We finally moved everything out of the way and could see that the post system in the building across the front really needs to be redone. We want to cut out the cement, put in proper footings, and put the posts on proper footings. So that's another line item for that project. Then the dairy barn, we have, this is sort of a repeat request. We haven't done any work on that yet. The exterior just basically needs, from top to bottom, except for the roof, just needs to be renovated. Just all the exterior products need to be replaced or repaired. Then what we're hoping would be our next, we have a lot of things written in here, but where we would like to go is we would like to request the funds for the bridge that would go over the wetlands. It's a real safety issue for all of the students departing. That if you've come into that driveway and left via the same driveway, it's very dangerous. Historically, there was the loop. I think we supplied you with photos of that. And it used to be there, and it was there for many years, but then the neighbor up above claimed that the property was hers. So we had to give up that exit.
It's a triangle that's very small. It's probably the size of this table.
Yeah.
But it's at the end of the driveway. If you want to look at the loop, it's on, if you go to page 77 and then flip back twice, you'll see the loop, which is the classic driveway. Go one more, Dawn. Oh, you got it, right there. Yeah.
I realize that we've given you the whole project, but those are the things that we would really like to focus.
So, Maria.
we've probably done this with you before. I want to preface my remarks with, I've been out to the silos. They are fantastic. And I poked my head a little bit in to see what you're doing in there, and it's coming along. But this year, we're going to be getting considerably less funding. We have a lot of projects. And we did this with you the last time. We asked you to kind of look, and if you could, I know that the Heifer Historic Barn is would be a lovely thing to do, but it may be that it's not the right time to do it. So I'm looking at Project 1 and 2, and I have kind of a question mark on the landscape and the bridge. That would essentially cut your funding down to about half the amount you're asking. Right. And my only concern with the landscape and the bridge is, I don't know if conservation, land bank, some other entity might help you, because if you're protecting wetlands, maybe there's some other funding source. So I'm just asking you to think about if you had to eliminate certain aspects and just stay with the first 2 or 3, right. Is that reasonable? And because the reality of our dollars is that's
right.
just
I think that we would certainly like to have the bridge, and that's something that is going to be very helpful. But to be honest, the preservation and of the buildings is key, and that is our priority.
Okay.
And we put the Heifer Barn in just because we wanted it to be a part of what we were looking at as the total, but we understand that isn't realistic right now as far as your funding goes, but we want to see the whole picture. Also, I feel like ultimately it's important that we find a way to do that, because if you look on page, go to 77 and flip back one, you'll see the actual Heifer Barn, and it'll what do I want to say? It'll restore what should be there. It'll restore the actual profile of the historic barn, which I think is really good. And what you see there is the Heifer Barn, and then over on the left, you see the plot plan where it was actually there. And I talked to Greg Marsh, whose dad actually bought the building, and that was moved just before they got the building, which was like in about 78, something like that. We moved in 79. But we understand that, Maria. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yes. I'd like to see more details about the quotes that you got for the work on Project 1 in particular. The fabricate and install custom storm doors and windows, for instance, at $131,000.
What page is that on?
This is on page 87.
And also on 49.
And on 49. And I'm also drawings for the Heifer Barn, since you come in at a price of $340,000. I assume that's based on drawings that you've already got to provide, and so when is our cutoff date?
We need material back to us by October 18th.
By October 18th but I think to mirror what Maria said, that I think it's very unlikely that with the demands that we have on our limited funds that we're going to get anywhere near there. But I would emphasize that I'd like to see what the quotes, that this is based on. Then I do have a question about, I noticed that, Kathy, you don't pay yourself.
No.
But you do lend money.
Yes.
So,
unfortunately.
So I assume that's from the family trust that is mentioned. Is your family trust?
No.
Oh, okay. So I couldn't see where the family trust was mentioned. I couldn't see.
Which family trust are you speaking of?
I'm talking about.
What page are you on?
What page am I on? That's a good question.
several family trusts support things we've done, but not my own.
Not your family.
So on page 99?
Well, 99
I read
is the corporations, trust, foundations is listed.
Where are you?
Page 99.
99.
Page 99.
I'm not sure where 99 is,
Oh, 99 is,
but it says on your Schedule A2, it said types of solicitation activities in which you expect to engage, and mass mailing and others is family foundation. So I wondered what family foundation that was.
Okay, what's happened is that we have been supported by Red
By
the Guns, the Chandlers, the Coxes, and other people.
Okay.
And that's been over the past, it's not current
are you
right
looking for
now.
this?
That's how we actually, that's
Thank
how
you. That I didn't get.
the long shed,
Thank you. Okay.
the long shed actually, we were able to purchase it from Dr. Voorhees. It became available very quickly. And we were able to purchase it by family foundations getting together to do that.
Well, and in the interest of brevity, I'll cut my questions short. I did have a few more, but they can wait.
And if I could critique how we've presented this, I think that the next time I would do it, I would put the total thing that we envision doing is such and such and involve the heifer barn or whatever, but that we're now requesting such and such, so that it splits it down.
Well, that's the letter that we're going to ask you to deliver to us
good.
before the
Right. Yes.
18th, by the 18th, in terms of your prioritization of the things that are absolutely critical for you to take next steps for us to consider within the context of the total project.
Okay, good.
But I reiterate, I'd like to see the quotes that this is based on. We've had an applicant who is replacing nearly 150 windows for about 30% more than your price for custom storm doors and windows. As
Well,
an example.
you do realize it is 100 feet of doors.
I understand.
Yeah.
I just,
I'm just saying,
I
yeah,
think
that's-
it's a reasonable request. I was a bit surprised there were no drawings.
Okay.
Thank you.
Linda?
We gave money last year to start the barn, or did we, that was what the money was for
Yes.
last year, because we'd already done the silos.
Yes, the silos are completed,
Yeah.
you missed that. And then we have 2 phases of the long barn in process.
Every inch of it right now is being worked on.
Yeah, I've noticed that when I've gone by. The long barn is the priority. That's what you said last year, was the long barn over the dairy barn, over the heifer barn.
Correct.
So bootstrap on what Ken already said, we only have so much money.
Right.
If we could only fund one thing, complete the long barn, is that where you think your priority is going to be, instead of piecemealing this into other structures and the long barn doesn't get finished?
Well, you don't have to answer that.
I know.
But that's
Right.
what I'm
But
looking at.
that's
Yes,
what we should
right.
think about.
That's what you
Yeah,
need to
well,
think about.
we've kind of already discussed our priorities,
Okay.
but.
So that's where I'm headed, because we've already started, we have a habit on the CPC over 14 years of
Finishing
completing
something
a
up.
project,
Right,
like the
sure.
churches, things like that, African Meeting House, things like that. And my personal feeling is that once we started the long barn, I'd like to finish the long barn, but setting your priorities is up to you. But that's just my sentiment at the moment. Because we are so limited in funding, I don't want to see a project that we started stop.
Yes, I understand.
I think we're going to be at this site for quite a while, the CPC.
Yeah, I like that you've identified the whole project.
Oh,
I'm
good,
sure you
thank you.
know that we obviously
Yes,
can't
we
fund
do know
one
that, yeah.
project in that extent all at once. But this is probably it's a multi-year project, like the African Meeting House. Went on and on and on, but it was one piece at a time. And I think that's just good, because you can say we knock off that part, then you just bring the rest next year.
Right. That's what we hope.
Yeah,
Anyway,
come back.
we did not
keep reusing this.
we didn't realize that we would be coming back with a sort of a back step request on the
It's
law.
probably going to continue to come up.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Things have happened over the years.
So what we're looking for by the 18th day is a more detailed prioritization on your part Secondly, some additional detail with respect to the major cost in the area of the long barn relative to the estimates or the proposals with respect to the doors. And then, again, if there are major items beyond the long barn or part of the dairy barn that you prioritize, again, sufficient detail so that we can be satisfied with respect to the nature of the quote that you've done and the source of it.
Okay. And what's the format of the 18th? Do we bring you a budget or do we come and present again?
No, what you do is you send us a letter outlining.
For the 18th.
Right, yeah, no, yes. I had
As
that
soon
from
as
last
possible.
year. I had it from last
You did that
year.
for us before.
Exactly.
How many
I've got the
windows?
format, don't worry, yeah, we got it.
Okay, good.
Thank
Are
you
there
very
any
much.
other questions of our applicant?
I just would like to say, I think the job that they have done out there is spectacular.
Well, thank you.
And I think that it's important, as with the rapidity that we are losing our historic areas on this island, that the restoration of one is even more important, and including the cottages. I think it would be fun to put a sign up saying, train station.
Oh,
So that as people walk by, they don't know, they just think of the cottages that have been there for how long.
Right.
But if we knew what was there before.
and a slaughterhouse.
Yeah, but if we knew what was before.
Once the land
The
bank
land
makes
bank,
it,
that's
makes that
there
section
should be
of
some
park,
sort of
they could do some kind of.
That's what I was
It would give
Plaque or something.
Yeah, I think that's a
Former
wonderful idea.
site
Yeah,
of this
really.
railroad station and this and this slaughterhouse and this and this.
It would give people a real history of what that water thing was like.
How it changes over the years.
Because I, as you know, just live up the street, and as we were part of the road trying, and those houses were long. They went like from what is now Francis Street all the way down practically Main Street. So it's, I think you have the ability to teach people what we were like before we.
That's a good.
Yeah, I like that very much.
Okay, thank you
We'll
so
talk to the
much.
land bank about that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just, the documentation is important. This is great, and don't forget that 5,000 for the documentation. Bring that back to us at some point, because I think that that's what we've been trying to do, because that's how we're going to preserve.
We have, right. What you didn't know is that, in fact, we funded a major portion of what Marty Hilton's doing.
Thank Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for your time and for everything.
Yes.
All Canada's out there in mass.
I'm just going to run to. Would you like to take this and look at it?
I would love to.
Here,
Do that.
Yeah, that's the
Give it
only
to you.
copy. Oh, so take good care of
I
that.
will take good care. Okay, thank you, Kathy.
Tim has said that all the dates that he agreed to when we all were together, something's come up, and he had most of it.
He's online a lot.
And he hasn't picked up any of it back.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Boy, the replacement was twice as much as the restoring the old ones.
Yeah. I don't understand that. Why not restore the old ones? It's a salient question. I mean,
Oh, I meant to get over there and look at them.
right.
I'll do that. I have to do
The
that.
windows,
I got to go just drive around.
they're
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
The ones that have been restored, I said, oh my God, they were better now than they were when they were put in.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but your point is a good point, that, old windows were built to last out of, and that's my point yesterday, that, we have windows 120 years old, and they're as good as new,
With a little spackling and a little glass replacement here and there. Kids put their hands through them, and balls go through
Baseballs.
them, and baseballs go through them. And
Right, but the frames are in
Yeah.
there. So,
morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you out there?
The meeting is being recorded and videotaped, so we would ask that you identify yourselves and take about 10 minutes to sort of flesh out the application, and then we will have a number of questions from the commissioners with respect to what you presented and what our review of the materials leads us to questions.
My name is Andy Burns. I'm the president of Hall Keene. I'm here today with Kurt Lamar, our construction manager at Hall Keene, and Kate Schroff, who is the project manager, who's been working on the CPC window project and also the overall renovation initiatives that we've been engaged in at Academy Hill Apartments for quite a while now. But Kate is up to her neck in the process, targeted renovations, which obviously include major focuses has been the windows. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for your past support and hopefully the continued support to complete the project. But it's taken a long time to get to the point we're at today. But I think we've made good progress. We had some, sort of classic difficulties getting sort of moving and off the ground, but I think we're really well on our way. We're hoping to finish most of the projected work by the end of this year, and Kate can give you all the details. So
I see your crew there every day as I drive home from the office.
We had a major issue with the power company did not, or it was, what was it? It was DigSafe did not identify the main power line going into the building, and we popped all the power when we were digging a hole for an underground storage tank for LP gas, and it was just a nightmare.
On the side.
Yeah, it was really a problem, but we got through that, and I think Kate has done a great job. So without further ado, introduce Kate.
Hello, everyone.
Yep.
So in the fiscal year of 2018, we were granted $250,600 from the CPC to restore the east facade. That work was completed in the spring of 2018. I still have another final submission to make. I'm waiting for our contractor to cash his check so I can get the canceled check over the reimbursement. But we were happy with how that project turned out. We started with on-island contractors. We did our sample window that Kurt was involved in 2017. We were really happy how that turned out on the first floor, and we continued with the same two guys on the on-island restoration team, and we found that it was very costly, more than we had anticipated, even though, it was great workmanship. But we decided to go in a different direction after those first 6 windows were complete, and we found a historical restoration company out of Middleborough, Massachusetts, who's done work at Harvard and around Boston, that we felt confident going in that direction. So they finished out the east facade, and they are just about to start on the west facade restoration with the fiscal year 2019 money, and they're starting next week and should be completed by the end of the year. So we are now submitting for the north and south elevations to complete the project for $80,500. So we'll get there to complete the building. But the per window costs have kind of been, we found, they can be higher and they can be lower. They're kind of all over the place. And the matrix that Kurt put together at the beginning of the project really outlines, our take on the whole building. And it's kind of been the median of the two numbers that have kind of floated. We ended up paying probably about over $13,000 per window for the on-island contractors, and then our off-island contractors, granted, it was a bigger contract for 34 windows. We got them to $5,100 per window. So we're right around the $5,000, a little above $5,000. But that was also for 34 windows. We have 12 windows left, so the unit price is going to go up. It's not as big of a job. And we're hoping that we can get Blackburn involved to finish out the project, but it's not guaranteed. We don't have them under contract until we figure out how we're going to proceed. you know, we might be working with our on-island guys again, or we have a great reputation with them. They're great contractors, but
Costly.
and they're slower than, you know, Blackburn County Conservation.
I just have a preliminary question, because in your presentation you indicate that the ground lease hasn't been renegotiated with respect to the town, but the ground lease itself wasn't included. My question is and this is a question that I faced before the FinCom last year with respect to our granting monies to you to restore the windows. The question was, why was that not your responsibility under the terms of the lease? Because you have the obligation to look after the building. And so I would like to have you help me answer that question this year when I have to go before the FinCom again with respect to any award that we give to you, as opposed to why it should be community preservation's and the community's obligation to, in fact, restore those windows as opposed to yours as the holder of the lease for the premises.
The language, the lease has been, I thought the lease was included in the package, but the amended lease specifically has language that we can, Kurt, you want to read the language that's in the new lease? Yeah. I think this is what we had talked about, that it carves out the windows as not being our responsibility.
If you can point that out to me, then I can take that, because that's the issue that addresses my problem with the FinCom.
Right.
As long as you don't have to provide it for me now. I accept your word.
It's very simple. That's it right there.
This is the one you got amended last year, late last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
I read it all. That's the one.
Is that it?
Even more
That's it.
recent than last year.
So the language of the ground lease reads, the town agrees to cooperate with the tenant and use reasonable efforts to support the tenant's application for a grant from the CPC to obtain additional funds in the approximate amount of $485,000 to be used for historic window restoration of the project in its entirety, subject to the approval by town meeting of the grant of such funds acknowledges.
Perfect. Okay. Thank
Works for me.
About as clear as you can be.
Oh, it's just in the back. I just found it now.
Yeah, I actually, it wasn't bound, but I had, I printed out and had Wendy
I got
stick
it.
them in, so it's not in the bound copy, but it should be in the
I got
back. But if you want the full ground lease, we can provide.
No, that addresses my major
It's much more
concern
extensive.
because of the fact that it was a major problem with respect to the FinCom.
We had to battle
And in fact, it was negotiating with me at the last minute on the floor of town meeting to make sure that we were able to do this. Okay. So, Linda.
This is my project. I work with Kate by email. I've been up there. I was up there beforehand. I've had friends up there. The windows are stunning. I did tell you that he was slow and very costly.
Yeah.
And there was a guy on the Cape that a lot of people are using because he's that cost and very quick. So I'm glad to see that you kept going and looking for somebody who could do this. I'd love it if you'd stay with the same guys because they've done such a marvelous job on these windows.
Right. I think we will. I think they'll, it just comes down to schedule.
This amount you're asking for this year, because we have limited funds this year, this amount will finish the structure?
Yes.
Okay. And
Finish the windows.
Your windows. You're still dealing with the medallion?
Yes.
No, you said in your proposal you were going to restore the medallion.
That's
Yes.
correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So I'm
That's
just
correct.
That's
waiting for
correct.
that, but I also appreciate the fact, given that she's passed now, that the two signs were put back, the historic signs were put back in the front on the fence. This is Libby Oldham's cause célèbre for quite some time before she passed away. And she'd be very pleased that you put them back.
Yeah, she approved these actually.
Yes, I know. We were going back and forth with the drawings and everything, colors and everything else.
Historical.
Historical and what to say, and
Yeah.
it turned out very well. I'm very pleased, and I do commend you for the way these windows look. Are they easier for the residents to open and close now?
They're working reasonably well. We've got some issues on sort of the ongoing maintenance, I think that what we're going to do is set up a protocol that all the windows get a spray. It's essentially a silicone spray that is put on the window jambs, twice a year, once a year. We haven't really figured out how we're going to do that, but they're functioning well. I think if we need to have a regular application of the silicone to make sure that those windows can go up and down easily, but they're far better than
what they were, but you couldn't open them.
Right.
Are there storms? Are you going to put storms on the outsides of these to protect them? Wooden storms?
No, there are aluminum storms on the exterior and insulated storms on the interior. We're not putting them on the interior ones are there now.
The exterior were ordered for the east facade. They're getting delivered October 16th, and they'll be installed this fall. They were approved previously by historical when we did the sample window.
A year and a half ago.
Are they full or they're split?
Full, triple.
Triples. Okay, because I've seen triples on windows this size.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the only one that is manageable.
Because a lot of people will on these old windows around town will put wooden storms, single panel wooden storms, just for appearance's sake. I believe the Athenaeum had to go through something like when they replaced their windows on the Federal Street side.
Well, I'm really pleased that you're doing this and restoring them, and I think you're doing a wonderful job. And it's music to my ears that you were able to get it down from 13 to 5. And my father used to use candle wax, the stub of a candle, to make ours slide up and down.
Silicone is the modern version.
Yeah, we use candle wax.
I just want to note that the final phase is 12 windows, and we got that number down for 34 windows and also for 40. So we're expecting that unit price to go up for the final phase because there's less windows.
Right.
But not to that 13 threshold unless we'll work. If Blackburn decides that, we can't get the schedule working, which, at this point, I'm hoping they're going to.
Right. Well, it's going to make quite a difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So would it be worth delaying if necessary?
So they're starting on the west facade next week. We work well together. They're happy with the project. I don't see any issues. But it's just, like I said, scheduling. If we do end up getting approval by the CPC, I could work on getting them in the fall of 2019.
So the funds wouldn't be available until after July 1st.
Right. And if that didn't work, I could do, the following spring.
Because they won't do the summer.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Really?
Yeah. Where do you house them when the crews come over?
So a lot of them, they're about in Middleborough, so it's not that far from Hyannis. It's like about a half an hour to 40 minutes from Hyannis. So they do day trips unless we're removing the sashes, and then they stay over downtown somewhere. And actually, the gentleman who owns the company, his sister lives over on Nantucket, so they've been staying at their house as well. So we have, it's been working out really well.
Other questions?
Great.
Successful program.
Yeah, really.
Well, we thank you.
Many thanks.
Thank you.
This is it's been a long process. I think we're
Well,
almost there.
Our grandchildren will be continuing to walk past the building.
They'll be in there.
It's well worth it.
It's a testament to Bob's. I love it.
well,
This was his pet project.
well, and I was thinking about it on the way over. The windows were always. He never got the windows quite right. But, my ex-partner Bob Keene, who was one of the authors of the CPC program.
Driving force.
He was the driving force. I remember in one of my last conversations with him grumbling about the windows. So he just the problems we had when they couldn't operate was just very frustrating.
May I ask, Chris? Yes, on your pictures of the restoration of the buttons, there are a couple of different kinds, and it seems there's, like on page 24, you have the buttons show their edges and stuff. And then on page 25, the mutton edge close-up after restoration is just simple.
That's the exterior.
The exterior mutton as versus the interior.
Yeah,
Different on the interior. And the first floor windows are in the worst shape, so that's the picture you see where it was fully stripped on the first floor.
Right.
Whereas the third floor windows are in better shape than the first floor windows, so there's a little bit different levels of
Interesting.
restoration.
Well, that's
Yeah.
weird, because they get the most.
We've been up there, I represent the HCC, and we've been up there a lot recently because we're doing work down on Lily Street, and they look right down, or Lily looks right up. So the windows I've looked at them carefully, and I think you have certainly done a beautiful job, and it makes that whole building just look great. I had a very good friend live there for quite some time, and so I knew some of the problems that they had with trying to get the windows open and shut. So they seem to be beautifully balanced. There's no, more difficult trying to get them open. They open well, which I think is the important thing on a window this big, is the balance of it going up and down.
They're not going to rattle anymore, and you're saving a lot of energy by those energy panels.
Yeah.
Yeah, that building is difficult to heat at best.
Right. And I think with the, we'll be finishing up the masonry repairs, when, end of October? Or
Middle of November.
Middle of November.
Yeah.
So
What sort of grant did you get from the state to?
Well, we received financing. They provided Mass Housing provided a new mortgage for most of the improvements that we're implementing right now. So they restructured the old financing, basically split the financing into two pieces, and what they call a performing mortgage, and then an accruing mortgage, and that doesn't get paid unless there's sufficient cash flow.
Because they weren't cooperating for a while, because that's why you guys approached the Housing Authority to take over the thing, and they came down and made a pitch to us to take over the whole lease and everything.
Exactly.
And then it's like, really?
How long did we extend the lease for?
I think it's another 40 years to
58.
58 years. Yeah, there was a magic number that was tied to the Mass Housing financing, and it was a completely modernized, up-to-date lease with a lot, frankly, a lot more control by the town in terms of the maintenance. I think that was, you probably heard from both the selectmen and the finance.
Had to compel the maintenance of
To compel the maintenance of the building. And the old lease was really fairly loose.
Or silent.
Or silent, exactly. And the new one really puts the burden, except for the windows, on us to maintain that building, and gives the town the rights to enforce with Mass Housing. Mass Housing was a little bit leery about having the town's requirements on maintenance, but eventually there was a negotiation, and the lease was finalized. So,
I personally appreciate it because I looked at it and it came back to the Housing Authority through Housing Nantucket a number of years ago, and I personally am very delighted that you've taken on that responsibility, together with the state, to be able to preserve a very, very important historic structure for the island.
And it's not even the original schoolhouse. If you've seen the original pictures look more like that schoolhouse you can see from 195 in New Bedford. Very narrow, very tall, much smaller footprint. The original structure was wood. It was a typical New England schoolhouse, very concentrated structure. And this has nothing to do with the original structure, which is why she was so hot to trot on those two different sides.
Yeah.
And it's also secured for housing events.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Are there any other questions?
Good adaptive reuse.
So I just want to let you know about the site restoration, that we're going to miss our window to restore the site with grass and plantings and so forth this year. But we're going to make safe, and then in the spring we plant grass and the walkways and everything. So I know, but it's just unfortunate that you can't get the grass back.
Yeah, we have 3 lifts out there right now. We might have a 4th coming, so we're really trying to hit everything on the exterior this fall.
Well, there's no point in planting until everything that's crawling around the outside of the building is done. You just destroy it again.
What's going to happen with the land on the, if I'm looking at it at the front of the building on the right-hand side, the back big yard that's out there, that is sometimes shared, parking is sometimes shared with the neighbors.
Or the neighbor's renter.
Yes, the neighbor's renters.
And the neighbors, encroach on the town's land.
Yep.
Which is a complicated little problem that I was surprised did not cause heartburn at the closing of the financing. But it didn't. It didn't seem to stop anything. And that the one we either added or have an understanding with, I don't know whether it's in the ground lease, but it was pretty clear that we agreed that if the town wanted to use the land for additional parking, that so long as Mass Housing approves it, we were okay with it. And I don't know whether that's in the ground lease or not, but that was discussed with prior to the closing, and our feeling was this is, it's the town's land, right, yeah. And obviously parking in the downtown is a huge premium and will continue to be. But with the, if the Historic District Commission and the town agree that they'd like to put parking, that's fine by us. Okay.
Right. Well, just as an aside,
never exercise it, but it was
just as an aside, though, the reason why I would like to have a couple of handicap parking spaces up there, as opposed to down in their parking area, which has to go upstairs for the most part. It's an uphill gradient.
Yeah.
Would you put 2, when this is all done, put 2 handicap or 3 handicap parking spaces up there? Because that actually levels right into the front door on a pretty easy slope. Maybe not 1 in 20, but a fairly easy slope down.
Yeah, so part of what we're doing is restoring the 2 parking spaces up front.
But those are short term, usually. They've always been looked at as short term.
There's the pull-up area right up front that is short.
There's two
to the left of those?
Yeah, okay. There's 2 spots within the property. Like at grade, or very close to the level. I mean, it's within the slope. Yeah.
Because that was my only concern about, everybody's always complaining about down there having to get up the stairs, and a lot of them are not that great on their feet, type of thing.
Yeah.
So whatever you can do for that. If they're going to put parking up there, more formalized parking up there off Academy Hill, I'd like to see maybe a couple up there that you just.
Yeah, parking's a problem.
Yeah.
Because people park here that don't live here.
So. Right.
Mm-hmm. And it's a problem to how the building looks too, because if you allow it, it gets to look kind of seedy by the end of the summer. Mm-hmm. And I think particularly this year has been very difficult. It's been a strange summer for stuff to grow. Some things have done very well, and some things haven't flourished at all. So it's probably just as well that you wait. I think it must be because it was cold and long, and there's been such a lack of rain for us that.
Is there anything else for anyone other than to thank you very much for a very thoughtful and detailed and professional presentation, and again, thanks for what you've done, and hopefully we'll be able to help you with this request.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nice seeing you all again.
Yeah. Diane, that's our sickle pear tree, which may be 100 years old, is on its last legs.
Yeah, I'll let you know. The contractor
it's gone
lost the
from
check.
just having hundreds of
So I just handed it to him again yesterday, and I told him to cash it. I have everything all prepared, so I'm hoping to get it to you in the next week.
My sickle pear.
3rd week of October.
Well,
Then I have to get
don't
by the second
No, we've got partners to come out.
unusual.
Yep.
We're not
Everything
bigger
prepared, so.
than that. They were so small. They were tasty, but they were so small. And I think it has to be our strange weather this
Thank you very much.
spring.
Yeah, thanks again.
Take care. Is there anything else that anyone would like to raise today? Our next meeting is
The 15th.
Wednesday, October 10th.
At 9,
Yeah.
yes, at 9
Wednesday,
a.m.
October 10 at 9 a.m. Here,
Town meeting day.
town meeting.
Next Wednesday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
next Wednesday. You mean I have another 9 o'clock in the morning?
You have two next week.
Yeah.
Well, actually, one at 9:30. That
10th and the 12th. Oh,
10th.
is it 9:30 on the Friday?
Yeah.
Do we need to adjourn?
Which day
It is
does,
9:30 on Friday.
Okay.
if it's, which day does Nantucket Housing come?
October 15th.
It is the 15th. So we got 10, 12, and 15.
15.
Yes.
Correct.
So that's good. Then
I'm
just
not
to
here
say
on-
again, I am not here.
On which day?
I'm here at the 15th.
I'm
Is
not.
15th is the last?
Yes. Well, it's the last of the hearings.
Okay, but I will not be here on the 22nd.
That's the first deliberation.
So if I'll give you my thoughts.
Yeah.
But I will be in North Carolina,
Are you going down to Jamie's?
to Asheville, North Carolina.
Asheville.
Nice spot, right?
Yes.
Nice
Motion to
spot.
adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Can't they all be that easy?
Weekend.
Thank you, too.
Good weekend, Ken.